What you all are about to hear is my memory of my worst whipping ever. Mr. Xavion Gilden asked for me to tell you all about my worst whooping ever. I can honestly say this. There's no way in the world that type of whipping it would even be legal today. But I thank God that I received it. It kept me from. Let me shut up. Hit a store. Go listen to it. Peace. My daddy was a noise talker in everything that he did, right? If we playing cards, he go talk noise. If he was dancing, he was talking noise. If he was whooping me, he was talking noise. Let me just say that I earned my worst whooping ever, okay? I earned my worst whooping ever. It definitely could have and should have been avoided. And now that I'm as a man now, I look back on it and realize that it was so bad because he was whipping me out of love and passion. Let me shut up and just tell you what happened. All right. Let's go back to when I was a child, right? Remember my dad died when I was 9, so this had to happen before then. It all started when in my neighborhood, that's how I started. My neighborhood, there wasn't a whole lot to do. You know, it was in a time where it preceded the internet. So we would do things like literally go out and hang out with our friends, okay? And when we were hanging out with our friends, we would do things like go to each other's houses, ride bikes, you know, whatever what we could find to do. We had a really good, loving neighborhood. You know, I recall going over friends' houses and getting fussed at by their mother because I was doing wrong. They didn't have to tell my mama. If they saw me, they said something to me, and it was squashed. Really good, loving neighborhood, right? There was a lot of us about next door, there, down the street, about 5 to 10 of us that would routinely get together and have fun with each other. Like, it was nothing for us to play football with each other, or we just had a lot of fun in the neighborhood. Well, when my father said something, he meant it. It was no negotiating about it. Like, if he told you not to do something and you did it, there's a problem. There's a major problem. Well, let me just say that peer pressure is real. Peer pressure is extremely real. I recall this very vividly. The way my neighborhood was set up, my mother could step outside on the porch and she could look straight ahead and see one street, and she could look to the left and right and see everywhere that I had permission to go. Okay? If I wasn't in any of those places, my mother was going to worry, right? She was definitely going to worry. So with that in mind, my mom always made sure that she would make just routine stops where she would just come outside and put her hands on her hips and just look for me, right? I thought I was smart. I would pick up on her pattern of stepping out onto the porch just to look around and see me wherever I was. Because if she did it, she wasn't going to come right back outside in my mind, right? So this story took place one day. There was a new guy that moved to the neighborhood. I want to say this guy was in his 60s or 70s. He was an older Caucasian man. He lived alone. Just really, it was new. He came off as a really nice guy. He came off as a caring man, and he came off as a cool guy. I didn't know him. We would ride our bikes and all that kind of stuff, and he would come outside and wave at us and all that good stuff. Well, my friends began to tell me that, hey, he got all the good candy in his house. We be going over there. We finna get some candy right now. I immediately felt some kind of way, right? I was like, I don't know about going over there. I don't know him. My parents don't know him. I don't really know about going to his house. No, we go over there all the time. We went over there yesterday. He gave us all the good candy. Okay? So we were riding. It was hot outside. Extremely hot outside. My house is literally 200 yards in the opposite direction, right? And we're on bikes. But my friends are going that way. Let me go ahead and just go in the house and get some free candy. And I'm thirsty anyway. I want something to drink. So my friends convinced me to go in. Let me stop blaming them. I went because I wanted to go. That's accurate. I went because I wanted to go. And I literally stood at the door. And I thought I had it planned perfectly because my mom had just gone back in the house after looking for me. Well, my mom didn't come outside and look for me this time. This time it was my dad. He's out on the porch looking for me. And so he sees me come out of the house. He screams down the street, "Hey, come here." He put some colorful words with it. And I'm riding, and my friends are coming along as well because it's not going to end well. My father began to tell me, he asked me did you just come out of that man's house? I said, yes, sir. He said, this is a family friendly channel. He said, in not so polite words, don't go back in there again. And my friends began to talk, and my dad was real, shut up talking to me, get out of my face. He was that kind of person. If he wasn't talking to you, you literally had nothing to say to him because he had nothing to say to you, right? So my father told him to go and get out of his yard because he was through, and he told me, as a matter of fact, go put your bike up. You going in the house for the day. Yes, sir. I was done with that. So next day passes, and I get my privilege to go back outside again, and I'm not stupid. I'm not going back out there. Not going back in that man's house again. So a couple of days pass, and I noticed that my dad is stepping out on the porch a whole lot more. I noticed that he's stepping out on the porch and he's paying attention to where I am a whole lot more. So at this point, I'm knowing I'm being watched, right? I'm like, even if I wanted to go over there, because the candy was good, it was amazing, it was fine, I'm not going back. My dad is watching me. Day 3 rolls around, people. My daddy runs somewhere, he out and about. So my dad ain't even home, right? My dad ain't even at the house. We can go back today. We can go back in there today. It was my homeboy's idea, and he was with me the day that my daddy told me to go and put my bike up and not go back in that man's house. But he wanted some candy too. And so we went. My daddy wasn't even home. Like, we just go be in there 2-3 minutes. We can get some candy and come on out. I'm gonna stand at the door. So I don't even have to be in there long. I'm being there the shortest. So we go in, and the candy dish is not where it was. He's moved the candy dish. It's on in the back or something. I'm like, I ain't going back there to get no candy. I'm good. As I'm about to walk out of the house, somebody is screaming my name. Sound just like my daddy, but he gone. I know he ain't home. This 6 foot tall, slim built man is on the porch with his hands on his hips, screaming and cursing in the neighborhood. When I tell you that man beat the brakes off of me that day, but I deserved it. I earned it. I asked for that whooping, okay? When he saw me walk out of the house and get on my bike, he immediately went into the house. He called me and said, hey, come on. Now, he didn't even say anything that day. He just threw his hand up and said, and I already knew. I'm crying before I get home. I'm like, hey, I gotta go. I'll hit y'all back later. But when I got home, now that I think about it, they ain't have to whoop me. My mother has a habit of hitting me in my heart. Like, she was like, I'm so disappointed in you. And that hit me harder than any whooping. Like, I don't even need to get whooped now. My mama disappointed, so I'm crushed. But that was just the beginning. It was bad. Like, it was one of those where your bottom lip is quivering. You know, your bottom lip is shaking. You can't talk, and it was real bad. Like, I felt like after it happened, I felt I was stinging all over my body, right? And after my dad whipped me, he left the house to go and talk to the man. Of course, I didn't have the opportunity to go, but from what I understand, it was fireworks. My father had a problem with a grown elderly man wanting the company of young boys. He didn't force us to come in the house, but he just saw that weird, that we were going over there and like, how did my friends know that he had candy in the first place? So after they had their confrontation, from what I'm told it was, he came back, and I thought I was finna get it again, because he was still mad, he was still hot, he was still on one. But if my father were alive today, I would thank him. I would definitely thank him for doing what he did to me. You don't know what anyone has on their mind or their thought process or their mental capability and how they're viewing you. It was so dangerous for us to continue going to that man's house. It was extremely dangerous. And it could have gone left it could have gone left any of those times, you know. Nobody knew him before he was in the neighborhood. Nobody knew anything about him. Nobody knew anything of him at all. He just appeared. And my dad was looking out for me the way he knew how. And that, looking back on it, of course I didn't want to get whooped, but it made me feel good to know as a man he was protecting me. I couldn't see it then. I wanted to call SCAN and everybody else. I wanted to call child abuse hotline and all of that. But he was protecting me and keeping me safe. And I was too ignorant to see that. So my worst whooping, you know, a lot of times people say, well, I ain't have to get... I earned that. I earned every lick that I received. I couldn't go outside for about the next week, because after he whooped me, he put me on punishment. But I probably couldn't go outside for the next 2 to 3 days anyway, because I had welts all over me, and they were huge. He beat the mess out of me that day. But I would thank him. I would thank him, because I earned it. I earned it. So if you don't get anything else from this story, please get this. If your parent or guardian is telling you something and they're adamant about it, even if you don't understand it, listen to it and go with it. Because when you get older, you'll see the wisdom in their ways. And even if they're wrong about a situation, just to make them comfortable and able to trust you is enough to listen to them in the first place. So with that being said, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the video. No further ado, peace.